Ready for today?
Yeah, I think so. Shall I show the people like I have a new light system?
No, don't move
Oh,
it. Don't move it. You'll get glare.
okay.
You'll get glare. Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Breakdown Besties podcast, episode number 5. I'm
I'm
Ananya,
Akshay.
and together we have about 14 years of combined experience writing for Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, on shows like Mismatch, Wedding.com, Shark Tank, Rana Naidu, Inside Edge, and Rahan, amongst other millions of projects which have gotten stuck in development hell, but will see the light of day someday.
Yeah.
Our goal with this podcast is to break down what goes within the scripts and the films, give you the films that are on screen. What are the techniques that screenwriters use to be able to get your attention?
And the film we're going to be breaking down today is the 2012 acclaimed mystery thriller Kahaani, written by a veritable army of writers: Sujoy Ghosh, Advaita Kala, Suresh Nair, Ritesh Shah, and Nikhil Vyas, who've come together to give us this banger of a film.
So let's jump right in. I have a logline written down that we can break down. Should I read it up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So, when a relentless pregnant woman comes to Kolkata to find her missing husband, she must contend with the force of a dark and dirty system that is adamant on keeping her from finding out the truth, lest she lose her life.
Yeah, that's great. I think you did
Okay?
it quite nicely.
Yeah.
You established the character situation, which is she is a relentless pregnant woman who has come to Kolkata, and maybe should we say
Yep.
she's come from abroad? So like we can establish that how not needed.
I don't think that really plays into the milieu of the thing. Like the story doesn't really play on the fact that she's from
Huh.
abroad. Like she could have been from South India
Yeah,
too.
that's true. That's true.
No, like yeah. So breaking this down into its four main components, like we already do, like we always do, it is the flaw, which is where she's relentless. I don't think being pregnant is a flaw, but in the context of this film, I don't know, the context of my life, I don't know. But relentless. We have her goal, which is element number 2, which is finding her missing husband, very clearly established. The third one is the conflict which she has to face, and that is she is contending with the force of a dark and dirty system. Right? The entire thing. So we know that she's relentless. The system is dark and dirty, so the two are going to clash. And what's at stake is her
Yeah.
life. Hmm?
You know, but the thing about the stake that it's her life,
Hmm.
you don't get to see that in the beginning of the film. So tell me
Hmm.
something. When we write the log line and when we establish stake, does that you have to
Hmm.
think of the stake while entering the story, or what's it at large?
Hmm. That's a good question.
Because at the beginning,
I think the
hmm,
stakes, sorry, yeah.
go on.
I think the stakes are set up at the end of the first
Hmm,
act. So as you cross into the
hmm,
threshold, you see what you're up against and what you're losing in that
hmm,
beat, that sequence. And that's when you get a sense of what's actually going to come
hmm,
for you. You don't realize what you're going up
hmm.
against until you are actually in the world,
Right.
right? Like you have a sense
Hmm,
of it. But what do you actually stand to
hmm,
lose only comes in once you interact with the world. So I think if it's established when they, cross the point of no
hmm,
return, when they're within that sequence and you see what's at
hmm.
stake, that's when you establish it. So I think that element becomes your stake at that structural
So,
point.
but that it's not a necessity that the character must be aware of the stake. Like, is the character cognizant of what he might lose or uh, what they might like is at stake for them, or we as a storyteller can project that on the log line.
I think because the log line is for our internal
Yeah.
guidance and for a pitching point of view, until like pitch, that we should do what a feels the most dramatic and is the highest level of stakes for both pitching and such that it guides our writing. So when I'm looking at every scene, what I want to think of is the fact that if the stakes here are her losing her life, how will this scene play out? She may not know it, but that is the level of fear and drama that I want to create as a writer. Does
That's
that make sense?
great because I think a lot of the sequences of this film are designed in such a way that there is a threat to her. You know, like there is a lot of intercutting being done in sequences where, she might lose her life. So, so I,
Yeah.
I guess you are bang on. But do you think if we can tweak it to like lose her life or less she get killed or like I don't know, like less she
Yeah, more dramatic in the
huh
writing, in the wording you're saying. Yeah. Let she be
prey
murdered
yeah
or, yeah,
lest she fall prey to
yeah.
it
Let she
ऐसा
be,
कुछ I don't know
yeah, let she be silenced by these
huh
forces
yeah
forever. If you really want to go dramatic, if you're doing it in like a studio pitch
huh
format, then you will want to be more precise
hmm
and prosaic in the way you
yeah
say it. But over here, I think for our internal purpose, we just need to set up the idea that what's at stake is her
yeah
life.
correct yeah
Yeah.
that's good
Good. Okay, so that is our log line. Always remember the log line is essential to set up for you as a writer, not even for a pitch purpose, but because you are going to be using this as your guiding light. Every scene is going to be determined by your log line. It's going to be falling within the criteria of these four elements of the flaw, of the goal, of the conflict, and of the stakes. These need to be evident in every scene, every sequence, and the story overall. So recap the log line before you go into your writing day every single time. Right? Okay. PSA from the teacher. We do call this a film school experience.
yeah
So
it's something which we never got in such a structured way so like yeah if anybody
yeah.
finds this helpful yeah
Yep. Repetition when it goes into
Yeah,
our
correct.
heads.
It's
So
like Duolingo when they teach you a language and it just keeps repeating you, what is an apple? What is an apple? What is an apple?
because that's the first thing I'm going to learn when I come to France. I'm going to say when I come to
Yeah,
France. Now, what is an
yeah,
apple?
exactly. Not hello and how are you, but can I have an apple?
Apple. Okay. So the next thing which we always do is go into our hero's journey.
Yeah.
The hero's journey is our structural spine, the backbone of our story. It has all the beats which a hero going on a journey, like your characters in your story will be doing, have to hit to provide the audience with an emotional experience that feels well rounded and complete. It ensures that even if your story is lacking in certain moments, is not fully designed, you will hit the emotional beats you need to cause the impact and keep the story running, keep the engine going, right? So, that in mind, let us begin with the hero's journey.
Let's get into it.
So, I found the hero's journey fairly straightforward in
Okay.
this. It was evident to me in how it played out, and we can begin and turn this into a
Yeah.
discussion, I
Yeah.
guess. So the first is our ordinary world,
Yeah.
right? So the ordinary world is where you set up the world in which the hero is going to begin their journey. What is their normal circumstance? Hmm? So the ordinary world in this movie, I'm going to excuse the opening image where we see the Kolkata metro being attacked. That is pre-credits, which ties into the story later. But over here, our ordinary world is Vidya lands. She goes right to the police station. She files a complaint. And from that point on, you see the world in which she is going to live. The world is one which is not giving her complete information, which is going to be confusing. She goes to the hotel. At the hotel, there's not enough information for her. They say that we don't have our records on the computer. Then she goes and meets Agnes de Mello at the NDC, where her husband used to work, and she doesn't get any information there. She goes to the morgue to identify a body. Thankfully, it's not her husband's. She goes to meet his family. She goes to the hotel. She goes to a school, but nothing over there. Like she doesn't get any information. Everything is like leading her down, leading her to closed doors. So that sets up the ordinary world I believe in she's living, where she's going to encounter a lot of closed doors while trying to solve this mystery.
Wow. So like you thought all of this was ordinary world. I just thought the first
Yeah.
first scene was ordinary world to me. Uh, yeah, I thought the moment Vidya Bakshi comes to Kolkata and she says, I'm trying to look for my husband, he's missing. That whole police station scene, like it's quite crucial to the story because, like you said, it gives a sense of where the story is going to be situated, what's the world like. So even like the constant
Yeah.
beeping of the computer, which comes back later in the film. Uh,
We'll get
yeah,
to that. We'll get to that.
and so I thought all of that was the until she reaches her hotel, I thought that was the ordinary world. But the moment she herself starts investigating, I thought that was the call to action for me. But I, but I also am curious to know what's your call to action then.
My call to action is when Agnes de Mello meets her at Mocambo. And she says that, look, there is more to this than meets the eye. Because otherwise, she's just investigating on her own because that's what you
Right.
do, right? In such a case, you don't leave it up to law enforcement to say that I'm going to trust them blindly, especially when she's a woman on a mission without a
Right.
job. Like, she's clearly come to Calcutta to be able to see what's going on with this case. So she's not going to sit around in that room all day. It's an ugly room. It's a dirty room. She is going to go
Yeah.
out there. But she thinks it's a normal case, like her husband is missing. But the real mystery, the call to action, is when Agnes de Mello tells her that no, there is a guy called Milan Damji who looks exactly like your husband, and his records are restricted. And I believe that is also meeting the mentor, because in this film, Agnes de Mello is the mentor. So when she gives her this information, is when she takes on the role of the mentor. That is when it is employed.
I thought that Agnes de Bello information was crossing the threshold. For me, it felt I like because I thought that was the first time our character comes to know that there is a bigger mystery which could be looming around her missing husband, where the idea
Yeah.
that oh, I'm here to look for my husband, but there is a new sudden entity called Milan Damji. And as a viewer, we're also seeing a little bit of, uh, the intercutting ki, oh, there's a like Inspector Khan's character saying, ki, oh, she's looking for Milan Damji's records. So, so for me,
That comes later. That is crossing the threshold. They're two very separate
oh,
scenes. You've got them
huh.
mixed up in your
Okay.
head.
So I'll tell you what my
Yeah.
flow was till like the crossing the threshold. I thought she's looking for husband as regular life. She starts investigating as the call to action. But when she goes to that school, when she goes to the relative and say that there's nobody by the name of your husband here, and she's a little bit lost in that moment, I thought that was the refusal of the call. And this Agnes de Mello's information that oh, there is somebody called Bilan Damji used to work in our company. He had a very specific blood group, which is the Bombay blood group. To me, that felt like crossing the threshold.
The threshold.
But
Okay.
could be totally wrong.
I see where you're coming
Yeah.
from. But the reason I would disagree with you here is because for me, crossing the threshold means the character taking active action. Getting information cannot be crossing the threshold. You only cross the threshold when you go and do something that, as we discussed earlier, gives you the stakes at hand. It makes it evident that this is what you're going up against.
Very
So,
interesting.
according to
Very
me,
interesting. That's a great tip to anybody. Like, so something a character actively does will become your crossing the threshold. And not in terms of
yeah.
than like the pace of the movie. Like not
No.
in terms of the information the character is receiving, which might make it seem that oh they're entering something uncharted.
Yeah. It's when the character themselves does it either voluntarily or they're forced to do it. Either or. But they have to be active.
Okay.
Right? So for this then, the refusal of the call, I believe, comes when Nawaz's character comes in. He's introduced as this police officer. While Vidya is not actively refusing the call, she is being asked to refuse the call because Agnes de Mello is shot, right? That is a very clear sign that something is going wrong. And Nawaz comes in and says, "Butt out, there is no Milan Damji, there is no Milan, there is no Milan." So he's telling her, refuse the call, refuse the call, refuse the call. And she then says, "No, I'm not going to refuse the call." So then she thinks of the information Agnes de Mello had given her that there might be Milan Jamji's physical records at the old NDC office. And that is crossing the threshold. When she and Satyoki or Rana's character, they go into the old NDC office and they retrieve those files. That is crossing the threshold because now they're saying we are becoming actively involved in the underbelly of this. Earlier, they were just doing what was okay on the surface, right? They were going and knocking on doors. They were speaking to people. Perfectly fine. But now they're doing something transgressive. He even says, "Jo aadmi like choro ko pakarta, abhi khud tala tod raha hai."
Yeah.
This shows that they're entering the underbelly, and this is crossing the threshold, according to me.
That makes total sense to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm glad. And I think crossing the threshold goes up until the stakes are established, which is the next scene, which is when Vidya is almost pushed off the metro.
Right.
So, and he pulls her back, and Bob Biswas, the contract killer, pulls her back. That is when the stakes are established that she's going to be losing her life. And we know that we have crossed the threshold. We have entered this world.
That's a big chunk, no? That's quite a big chunk.
That is a big
Yeah.
chunk.
Yeah.
It is going to the old office to find Milan Damji's records. Then she goes and gives it to Khan, and she says that's Nawaz's character, and she says, "Who is Milan Damji?" And he says, "How did you get these papers?" And she said, "That's not the point. You tell me who he is." And then the next scene is where she goes to the metro station and she's almost pushed up. So it's a sequence of 3 scenes.
Pretty cool.
So it's a sequence of crossing the threshold.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have the long sequence of tests, allies, and enemies, which is going to Milan Damchi's house, learning that someone used to visit him, spotting Sridhar at the office, meeting the police informer, learning about the meeting between 2 random people who I have no connection with in the story. I'm just like, why is this here?
Who were they?
You know, the 2 who were shot at
Huh.
the blood group thing came
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
I think they must
then
have wanted to like use this Bombay blood group thing, and so like they must have wanted to create a sequence where Milan Damji bleeds, that he needs this.
Yeah.
So like a shootout of some sorts must have happened. So I guess that.
Yeah. And then all the way up to Ganguly dying, Dr. Ganguly dying, where they go into the quest of this Bombay blood group situation. So all these little challenges, which are individually interesting, but exist to kind of show you the world in which they are going to be in which they are facing and living all their challenges, right? Then we have the approach to the innermost cave, and that is a very obvious scene, which is where they are being chased by Bob Biswas, where Vidya is being chased by Bob Biswas, who is the contract killer. And she is going to be shot, except that Bob Biswas is killed himself. Then you have the ordeal, where they come across this character named Sridhar. They want to break into their office, his office. Sridhar comes to know he's coming to get them. There's a chase sequence. And in this sequence, Sridhar is also killed.
And this is killed by Vidya herself, right? Like
Vidya herself.
Which I thought was quite a...
So that is
the ordeal of her killing this dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have the reward, which is revealing that Khan was actually on their side all along. Nawaz's character, he's not the bad guy, surprise,
Yeah.
surprise. And they're all going to be working on the same side now, even though Vidya's a little jaded that her sidekick, Satyoki, is had been lying to her all along.
Yeah. So you're the
So
align.
this
You're the
is
align now. I matched with your
yeah,
journey
yeah,
because I thought
yeah.
the reward here was that not for her, but that she comes to know that she is a mole in this bigger operation. Uh, so
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, yay, we're aligned.
I'm yeah. And then you have the road back where the three of them start working together. They're hacking the computer. They find out, and it goes all the way to them finding out a code on Sridhar's computer, which leads us to Bhaskaran, an old Indian band. We have so many of these characters, which I'll get into when we talk about the
Yeah.
world. Indistinguishable characters.
Yeah.
Uh, they get a number that says Bhaskaran old. They call him and they realize that it is actually Milan Damji who they're calling. And then you have the resurrection where Vidya goes to meet Milan Damji in the name of giving some evidence about Bhaskaran. And as that happens, she has the whole confrontation scene with Milan Damji and she kills him. That is your resurrection. And then the return to the elixir is the reveal of the real story of who Vidya is, how it connects to the opening image, and finally lighting a candle at the memorial of the metro event.
Yeah, like she lights the candle at her husband's photograph. Yeah,
Photograph, yeah.
yeah.
Now that we've spoken about the hero's journey, do you want to get into scene techniques or character or what?
Let's do scene techniques. I've noted down a few
Scene.
scenes and sequences which I thought were damn cool, and I
Okay.
thought they did it quite well in terms to create engagement because it's such a this is a thriller, right? Like the moment if you lose your
Yeah.
audience's uh, engagement, the whole movie is gone. So the first sequence I want to talk about is the one where they go to access they go to find Milan Damji's records in the old office.
Yeah.
While we
Yeah.
while we see Bob Biswas are trying to also find the same record.
Yeah.
So to me, I thought this scene was pretty cool because what could have happened is that looking for files could be such a boring sequence, right? Uh, uh, so bland anyway. So, and in the
Yeah.
previous couple of scenes, they've established that this guy is a contract killer. He carries a gun with him, and if he is also at the same place where our main protagonist is, there's inherent threat to that.
Yeah.
So
Essential.
the
Yeah.
idea of setting up a ticking time bomb of sorts uh, into such a bland activity inherently makes your
Yeah.
scene quite engaging.
Definitely. This is the same technique which we've discussed earlier. It is Hitchcock's bomb under the
Yeah.
table. Except now we are seeing it as two separate scenes where the bomb under the table is Bob Biswas's character, who is coming to get them. And these people are blind to that information and they are looking for the records. While in the hopes of not being caught without knowing that a serial killer is on there, not a serial killer, but a contract killer is on their
Yeah.
tail. And the reason this works, I remember when we were talking about this, I don't know in which film, you had said that you're always a little confused, right, about whether the audience should be given the information or not in terms of that this is going to happen and this threat exists. And I think this scene, and I'm going to combine this with one more scene where they've used the same technique, which is when they are in Sridhar's office and they're looking for his, and they're hacking his computer. At that time, you intercut it with Sridhar, who's in his car. He gets a notification that his system is being hacked and he's coming after them. And then you intercut. The reason it works is because you're intercutting and you're creating tension. So you're making the audience feel like, oh, ab kya hone wala. It's only because the audience is ahead of the characters that they can feel a sense of fear, which your characters can't feel, which is why these techniques work.
That's pretty cool. And I want to also talk about, because we're talking about the scene, just the scene that followed this is where she goes and tells Nawaz, Inspector Khan, that, see, you lied to me. You told me there's no Milan Damji. There is clearly a guy named Milan Damji. And
Yeah.
after this, she comes to know whatever the history of this guy is, what could be the case. But what could have been a very talky scene, they'd what they have done is that they've made us see Vidya Bagchi walk back from the police station, go to the metro, and throughout, she is feeling scared, heartbroken, sort of like uh, unaware, like what's going to happen to her, like, and we hear all of the information in voiceover. Uh, so I thought again that was a little clever way of doing this because it could have been a very talky
Right.
scene. They've cut down that time of them having the scene,
Yeah.
then she doing the walkthrough later on over some, I don't know, some music or just silence, and they've tried to merge
Yeah.
that. And in this
Yeah.
moment, you feel that she wonders what's going to happen to her without realizing, and immediately they break that headspace by Bob Biswas pushing her off the metro station, you know? So I thought the
Yeah.
sequence was very
Yeah.
interestingly done.
I think the word you want to use is very economically done.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Another scene I wanted to talk about was the opening scene, the opening image where we see the Calcutta train metro accident where the bottle is broken. What I want to talk about there is misdirection and how to create a good misdirection. And I am not going to talk about the scene as an example of a good misdirection. I'm going to talk about it as an example of how not to create a misdirection because it's a gimmick. So, to create a misdirection, we know that this man is looking for a backpack which contains something inside it. And throughout the scene, we have focused on a kid who is carrying this backpack and holding on to it, cuddling it, ends up getting bullied. Because he's getting bullied, this man's attention goes to that kid to see what's in the backpack. Meanwhile, you have a separate woman who is with a baby in her arm, and she is the one who actually is carrying that bottle, which has this deadly liquid inside. And we have distracted the audience by talking about this kid when she's the actual culprit in the scene. The thing is, this kid doesn't come back in any foreseeable way in the next scene. He's not relevant. When you are creating a misdirection, even if you're creating the misdirection um, for a character that's not relevant, they still have to play a part within the scene. This kid does not play a part within the scene. It is purely a gimmick done for the audience to distract them, which I thought was not cool over here. That information should have come back later in the story. For example, what they did do is they revealed that the man who was searching for this kid was actually her
Yeah.
husband at the end of the story. So that connects. But similarly, the amount they focused on this kid, I would expect them to say that this was her kid.
Mm.
That's the only way you can justify spending so much time on this character in the opening image of your film. Otherwise, it bears no relevance to the rest of the film. It has just been done to distract the audience via the medium of the character. And it is not okay to do this.
Very interesting point.
But recommend, like, don't do this. Don't create this for the sake of it. You can get away with it because it's the opening scene and people let it go once they get invested in the character. But it's not good writing.
Because I'm gonna do a little bit of a segue and ask you, how important do you think the opening image in this film was? I'll tell you my reason for asking. Okay. When I had gone to see this movie back in 2012, me and my sister went for the movie, and it was an early morning, 9:30 a.m. show or something. And like I've
Yeah.
told you, what happens with my families, we always reach the movie a little late. Okay.
Yeah.
So I literally
Yeah.
entered the movie when Vidya Balan's character is walking out of the airport. So I
Hmm.
missed the opening image of the movie when I was watching it. And the movie
Yeah.
still made very great sense to me. Like, so when
Yeah.
I was watching it now for this, it got me thinking that what is the need for this? I'll tell you again more because it could have been a very simple story that, oh, this woman has come into this world, she's looking for her missing husband while she's pregnant. Only at that crossing the threshold moment when you know what you said, she comes to know that she's part of the bigger system or there's something more going on.
Hmm.
And because what it starts doing now that we live in such a modern storytelling time where cold opens are such a common thing in our Netflix and Amazon Prime series that you automatically start connecting two and two together. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, oh, this is Vidya Balan, such a strong actress. She obviously has something more to do,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
obviously, I don't think this would have been a problem back in 2012. But now when I'm thinking
Hmm.
about it, I'm constantly thinking, oh, इसका कुछ तो इससे connection है.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but do you think that works in the favor of the story or does it backfire a little bit?
I think they did need to set
Huh.
that up because at some point, I mean, the whole film hinges around the idea of this of solving what happened at the Kolkata metro accident 2 years ago,
Right.
right? So you have to set that up. You can't not set
Hmm.
it up at some. But I believe that setting it up as a cold open was unnecessary, and structurally they could have made a different choice because what happens over here is that they've set that up and then they only really bring it to its completion at the
Hmm.
end of the
Hmm.
film. The the Kolkata thingy is just hinted at through the rest of
Film.
the film. It's spoken about. You don't
Yeah.
see it. So I think it creates a bit of a jarring experience to have it bookend the film in the opening and the
Hmm.
closing. If I were writing it, assuming that I'm a writer who still has the objectivity while I'm so deep into the weeds of this film to be able to do something like this, what I would have done is seeded it in slowly that
Hmm.
this happened, so that it is a constant thread through the
Hmm.
film, vis-a-vis it coming so suddenly in the opening and so suddenly in the closing, and you're just getting a sense that, okay, Milan Damdi was responsible for
Yeah.
that.
And what could have been even smarter was that with what if Vidya's character didn't know it that this incident had happened, so she also in real time comes to know, oh, like this is something which happened. That could have been a like those scenes could have been information for her as well as the audience, you know. Uh,
That's true, but then your reveal wouldn't land at the end because the whole point is it's a kahani that she knew what she was going to
no, no.
do, so she spun this whole web of lies. Right? That
I'm
would be a
saying she
different
could
film.
like her character could have been acting that, oh, I didn't know this, you know, because
Oh, okay,
because
okay.
if she's like, she's come from whatever, London or somewhere, like it would have been fully believable for her character to like, oh, no, I don't know this, you know? So as and when
Hmm.
she is coming
Hmm.
to know
That
from
information.
people, that's
Yeah.
when the audience could also know, you know? Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when the information is revealed.
Hmm.
That when she's
Yeah,
pretending that she
yeah,
didn't know it.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then another simple technique I wanted to point out, which is common for films like these, is giving the audience
Hmm.
information. Exposition technique is when you have a character who is at the same level of information as your audience. What they're going to do at this point is be taken through a scene where everything is explained to the character and that similarly to the audience. So when Vidya Balan lands and she goes to the police station and she talks about the case to the policemen and the audience are at the same level of information, so the
Hmm.
exposition works. You can give exposition in the way in which it has been
Hmm.
given over here in the scene by saying this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Ideally, in a normal exposition thing, you can't say this happened, this happened, this happened, because the character usually has
Yeah.
this information. So it's repetitive. It's not how you talk in real life. But in a scene like this, it perfectly works to give
Yeah.
exposition.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Oh. Okay. So that is what I have in terms of. No, I have Chekhov's gun, which I want to point out. Setup and payoff. So Chekhov's gun is a technique where you establish some information, and later on, that information has been used. My favorite way of doing it was in Bob Biswas, the contract killer's character, where they show that he's huffing and puffing up the stairs. His cardio fitness is shit. And later on, when he is going to kill Vidya Balan in that chase sequence, his heart, his cardio gives out
Yeah.
on him, would not survive the
Yeah.
apocalypse, and he collapses. Like, that really slows him
Yeah.
down. So I thought that was very well done. And the other Chekhov's gun is that she helped solve, she helps fix their computer in the police station scene in the start. And then later on, they use that the guides of her fixing the computer so that they're able to withdraw the records of the shootout scene. Right? So those are two Chekhov's guns, which I thought I spotted in the film.
Pretty cool. There was one more thing which I think these are two different, they're not moments in the film which come toward the, like slightly towards the end. So what I thought that the moment, where she's come to know that she is the mole in this bigger operation. And she has those moments where, she is crying in her room, she's feeling sad and lonely, and she's walking all alone and all of that. Like, obviously, all that is shown to create empathy for your character. That, oh, now what will happen to this poor girl? All of that. But at the same time, the filmmaker knows the big reveal is coming. So that she was not pregnant, that, it was all a cover.
Yeah.
So I thought the timing of it was so intentionally done that you
Yeah.
create these feelings of almost pity for this pregnant woman. So even when from the police station she's going back home, they have the onset of the Durga Puja sequence, where there are families here and there. And if you notice closely, that entire montage is focused only around children. Like, you have
Yeah.
like the father lifting the children on the shoulder, he's playing with it. The
Yeah.
entire montage is just played from the like, you focus more mainly on the children. And so you're sort of starting to feel bad for this ki, oh my god, she's gonna become, like, she's gonna deliver a kid without the father. We don't know what's gonna happen. And at the same time, we have also cognizant of the fact that she's gonna get killed, like. So
Yeah.
I thought that was done very nicely, because very in the next 5 to 10 minutes, you're gonna come to know that, oh, this was all a
Yeah.
cover up. So I thought
Yep.
that our intention was very nice. But at the same time, I have a biggest pet peeve in films is that sometimes they'll show these scenes of her alone, her crying, only to know it was a cover up. Then I was thinking, then who was she doing this natak for? Like, uske room mein kis cheez ke liye natak, And in the end, they do make it clarify that, I started believing I actually was pregnant again, you know? So
Yeah.
it's a little,
Yeah.
I know that expression when you say like, it was, it felt like a little bit of a retrofit to me.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
it is.
Agree. Justify
It's
karna
still, but
tha.
it's still, I thought it was better it's done than not done, because I
For
I always
sure.
end up thinking ki in at least some character who's hiding, at least in their alone times, they wouldn't be that, But
That, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what to
For sure.
call this
Yeah.
technique, but yeah, this was my observation in these two across these sequences.
So I agree with you that they have retrofitted that idea that I started believing I was pregnant. But it would have landed even if they hadn't tried to so hard to clarify their intentions and just said that she was reliving the whole loss of her husband. I would have completely
Believed it.
believed that. because she has come here to unravel the mystery and punish the man who caused her husband's death. And that was causing her a lot of pain, and that's why she was crying. Imagine like being embroiled in that situation all over again. Fair
Yeah.
enough. But this was retrofit to kind of justify her crying.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, but to segue, to use your point as a segue of what you essentially said was creating a contradiction, right? Like of extremes. That first they're going to be creating this sadness and all of that, and then to reveal that, oh, this she's actually a woman on a mission. So I would segue into character for that, because they've also used this technique with Nawaz's character, where they have off the bat established him as this bad guy. Like in his introduction scene with Vidya, what does he do? He screams at her, he talks over her, he refuses to stop smoking in front of a pregnant woman. He gaslights her. So all he established in the worst possible way, if you think about it. But the reason they do this is otherwise the impact of him being a good guy doesn't land. So to create that impact, they have to take him to one extreme and then bring him back to another extreme. But while they've done that, the abrasiveness of his character doesn't go away. He's still very abrasive. So I thought that contradiction of creating that impact and reveal really worked. It's a good character technique of showing another facet of a character.
Yeah. Interesting. I also thought, but it was intentionally done to like to have
Yeah. Mislead the
mislead the
audience.
audience, but also have a very strong force against Vidya Bakchi's character. Like in the sense that the entire world was looking at her at this pitiful lens, and they
Yeah.
didn't expect in her mission that somebody would behave like this. So even we never clock her expression that, oh, he's being nasty towards me. But from an audience point of view, you're also like, "Ki, okay, like that, like it's not gonna be it's not gonna be the easiest route. Like what she had in mind, like
Yeah.
that's not getting active here.
They've created a foil in his character,
Yeah, correct.
essentially. That's what they've done. Where everyone is feeling bad for her, they're saying that he's a representation of the forces, of the ruthless forces that are coming after her.
Yeah, correct.
Because it's only after his character is introduced that we see Bob Biswas go after her, almost push her, all
Yeah.
that. So I think that character is kind of a representation of all the conflict and jeopardy she has to face going forward.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. And one more character thing that I noted, which I really liked, it's very small, but in creating an ally character. So we have two police officers in the first scene which we meet, right? Rana Satyoki, who becomes our main sidekick character. And the second is the slightly chubbier police officer whose name I
Even I
don't
don't
recall.
recall.
Okay. Yeah. But what I really like is they've created a very good ally in that chubby policeman character. And I'll point out how they've done this. What's interesting about it? The fact that when Nawaz is grilling Vidya's character, Satyoki comes in late and they send him into the lion's den. That chubby character sends Satyoki in saying, Arey, like he's grilling her, he's punishing her, go check on her, when they know that he's not supposed to be in there. Right? So it shows that they're playing around with him a little bit. They fuck with him. But later, when Nawaz comes and yells at Satyoki for interrupting it, this guy tries to defend him and says, Ki, nahi, like, let him be, it's okay. And this has a good payoff later on when Nawaz asks Satyoki to be under observation. He keeps a man on his tail to ensure that he doesn't go and tell Vidya that he's making Vidya Bali ka bakra. But at this point, we've seen that this chubby character is actually, while he might bully Satyoki's character, is actually on his side. It has been established in this prior scene. So he goes and creates that little distraction so that Satyoki can leave and go warn Vidya's character that she's going to be in danger. So they've created an ally character who's not just a boring ally character, like, oh, I will make sure everything goes right for you. He also puts him into trouble. So it gives him a layer. And this is a good way of creating character, creating personality for a bit player-ish character by showing two sides that I'm an ally, but I'm also fun. So it makes it more human and it makes it more interesting. So this is a good example of creating a bit player.
Yeah, yeah. I
Character.
have a question for you because I haven't been able to crack it about this film. That Satyuki's character, obviously, like they've made that correlation that his name is Arjun, like the Arjun's chariot, or all
Yeah.
that, and so we know
Yeah.
he's gonna drive her around, whatever that correlation they did.
Yeah.
But they tried to develop like a subplot of there being romantic tension between them a little bit. Now, which was an interesting choice to me from a character point of view because you never think in these kind of or in what the world that a pregnant woman could somebody would look at her from that
Yeah.
lens. So interesting
Then,
character
yeah.
choice. But my question is, why did they need it in the first place? Like it's not like she
Yeah.
orchestrated it because she never tried to be sexy or anything, or like she never tried to flirt with him. She just wanted him
Mm-hmm.
like an accomplice in her mission. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I found it very strange and interesting at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't quite put that together because he could have wanted to have rescued her at the
Huh.
end, even without him having a crush
Yeah.
on her, right? That would have, in fact, made him a stronger
Yeah.
character, where he's not motivated by love, but by a sense of like
Duty.
moral, like right or
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah. So I don't know. Part of me thinks if it's just because, Bollywood films always need to have a certain romance angle
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to it. Like there are very few films, especially back in 2012, where romance is not a part
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just what you go to the movies to
Yeah.
expect. I don't know why it
Yeah.
was there,
Maybe there's
honestly.
something we're not seeing because it somewhere works in the film. Like I understand the merit of it, but I'm from a storytelling point of view, I'm trying to understand its placement in the film.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was a quick dialogue. I don't have a lot in terms of dialogue. I just have one, and I'm pretty sure you may have the same note
Hmm.
on it, which is the dialogue in the start of the film where Satyaki is driving Vidya to the hotel. And she says, and he says, Mere do naam hai. Mera dak naam, which is my nickname, is Rana, and Mera Phalu naam, which is my real name, is Satyaki. Now, I want to analyze this from several like points of view. It's not just the first obvious one is the theme, right? Where Vidya Balan says, ek aadmi ke hi do pehchan or do identity, two sides of the same person, which is literally what the theme of the story is. So they have established it here. The other thing I want to talk about is a thing which filmmakers can use in films, and they often do, which makes the audience feel a little more intelligent coming out of the film, is giving a fun fact. This is called a gift, which is given within a film, where an audience learns something about the world, which they can then go on and like parade in their real life. You know that now you know a certain thing about Bengali culture, which is Dak Nam and Phalo Nam. Like I will use this going forward. And I thought when you are exploring a new world, yet you use the world to create conflict, all of that. But you're also the idea of films and stories is to broaden our perspective, right, of the world. So I think giving these audience gifts like this is something as a filmmaker we should endeavor to do. We should endeavor to enlighten people a little bit through the course of entertainment. Like we've done this beautifully through theme, through a wonderful dialogue. It would have been nice if they had used this in the plot later. If, for example, there had been some confusion between who's Rana, who's
Huh.
Satyoki, and that could have created conflict within the plot. That would have been even more interesting. But the fact that I came out knowing this piece of information about Bengali culture, which I wouldn't have otherwise, was a good takeaway for me. And I think something I will use in the film, like to help my audience feel more
Yeah.
enlightened, like going forward. Is that right?
But I do think they used it somewhere in the film, is because
Mm-hmm.
when Vidya Bagchi's character, she's been told by Inspector Khan that Milan, koi nahi hai Milan, you know, and she goes and
Hmm.
talks to Satyuki about it that you're saying people use generally the dark name, when you're referring to, but he said specifically Milan, like that. It creates a suspicion in her mind that if he was so against this guy, how is he on almost like a first name basis with him? So, so
Right.
I do think they tried to use it a little bit in the movie, and it
Yeah.
again comes as a payoff in the very end uh, when she writes that on the envelope, "Thank you, Satyuki," and Khan's character
Yeah.
is like, "Who is Satyuki?" And she's like, "It's me,
That's
bitch."
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so uh,
Yeah, they have used it.
uh,
You're right. Yeah.
they tried.
Yeah.
I do think what you're saying could have happened more. I think like they could have. I don't know what could have been very clever is that if they tried to do something about Arnab and Milan's name as something, because you're anyway
Yeah.
confusing them for
Yeah.
faces. Why not the names now?
Hmm.
When you establish
Names.
that.
Yeah. For sure.
Hmm.
Then I had one tiny note on the
Hmm.
world, which is very small, where I thought the conflict was a very momentary passing conflict was well derived from the
Hmm.
world. With when she goes into the hotel in the start and she said, "Show me the
Hmm.
records." And he pulls up like paper wala
Hmm.
khata. And she's like, "Computer nahi hai kya?" And he's just like, "Madam, ये guest house है, ये five-star hotel नहीं है, यहाँ सब मतलब computer thing इस पे ही
Yeah.
होता है." So I thought the concept was very well derived from the world. That they put her in the world of a
Hmm.
guest house and not having a computer was part for the
Hmm.
course, and that would create
Hmm.
conflict. It was well
Yeah.
used.
Yeah. That's,
And yeah, do you have anything else on the world?
I want to talk about a little bit about the city of Kolkata in the sense how
Okay.
it's been used in the film and at a very specific point of time. Like, so the city is at its peak when during the Durga Puja festival.
Yeah.
So to juxtapose that at the time, which is almost gonna be the peak of her life's mission into that time, I
Hmm.
thought was quite
Yeah.
well juxtaposed. And there's a little bit about the theme of the film about which they said it in the very end. They brought that, how Durga's role in this world was that she comes every year, she fights the evil and goes away. So that
Yeah.
idea in the end I
Yeah.
thought was quite sweetly put in because now having worked enough in this industry, we know how much people love to put in the mythological reference or something of that sort. Because as a country, we are
Yeah.
so huge on mythology. Like, it really connects with our audience immediately. So, even
For
if
sure.
that wasn't there in the end of the film would have totally worked. But I
Yeah.
think adding this very small correlation helped in some way, it elevated the
Yeah. Hell.
story, which I think is like the perfect
Definitely.
balance of putting this. Like, it's not hammy, it's not
Yeah.
forced, and
Yeah.
it's just comes very organic to the story. And at the same time, that whole sequence in the end of the last day of Durga Puja, which is, sort of this celebration of women, and, it almost talks about how that's like peak femininity in some ways. And that again to juxtapose with the climax of your film, I thought was very interesting because this year was the first year I went to a pujo pandal for the first time in my life. Uh,
Pandal. Pandal.
no, the
Pandal.
Bengali folks love calling it
Hmm?
pandal. They say it pandal. Yeah,
What?
yeah. My friend Nandini Gupta, shout out. She was the one who
Hmm.
told me like they used to call it pandal. And so I'm
Okay.
like, okay, then I shall say that too now when I'm referring about your festivals. So, and when she was taking me around, she told me about the significance of the festival and how, the last day signified sort of so essentially the festival meant that it's homecoming for the goddess. Like she comes to the home of her mother during the festival, and the last day is when she's gonna leave. So like Like it's women are celebrating but also crying at the same time. And it's a very like it's the experience of being a woman. Uh,
Woman.
and I thought it was very nicely used for the climax of the film because we couldn't have
Hmm.
ever anticipated that this character has gone through something like this. And she had to take the matters in her
Yeah.
own hand. So I thought that was beautifully done in this sequence.
Yeah. Then I wanted to talk about um I thought I wanted to talk about plot in this
Hmm.
film, but I wanted to talk about how plot plays out on the screen and how they've done it in
Hmm.
this film. Okay. So because this is a thriller and a mystery all rolled into one, there is very significant plotting happening, right? Now, first I would like to go behind the scenes, not on the page. If I were in a writer's room doing this, how I would have this mapped out is if I had a physical space, is I'd have like a pin board with like images, names, all of that, and silly string going across it, connecting everything.
Hmm.
Right? Now, that's what you do in such a plot heavy film from a writer's point
Hmm.
of view. I'm not talking about what you see on
Hmm.
screen, right? Because you need to know what role every person is clearly
Hmm.
playing so that you can write with clarity on the page. Now, that clarity is very hard to bring onto the
Hmm.
page because of the simple fact that there is so much information and exposition going
Hmm.
on there,
Hmm.
right? So, when you want to bring that clarity onto the page, you have to do this. Either you use a visual aid, you can literally, which a lot of films do, is have silly string and have that pin board, all of that, and connect and go like. And at every stage, you go back to the police investigation room. You put that pin board on there, and you say that okay, this is connected to this, this is connected. So as the characters are stringing it together, it also gets like stuck in your audience's head, so they're on the same page as the character.
Hmm.
They could have done that in this film, but they chose not to.
Hmm.
They chose to use another technique, which is where they elicit emotion.
Hmm.
They don't expect the audience to remember everything that's going on and connect the dots.
Hmm.
They say, come on this journey with us and believe us based on what we make you feel.
Hmm.
Because let's take the characters of like Tyagi,
Hmm.
Shri, Bhaskaran,
Hmm.
at to some point even Bajpai, who at the end is a good
Hmm.
guy. These are all three indistinguishable male characters
Yeah.
to me. I have no idea what role they play in the film, why are they there,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
But when they come in, some character reacts to that
Hmm.
information. Acha Bhaskaran ye kar raha
Hmm.
hai. Acha Tyagi ye kar raha hai. So what they do when Tyagi comes onto the screen is that as soon as Tyagi has his first
Hmm.
scene, Agnes de Mello is
Hmm.
murdered. So they are not giving you information that Tyagi is this guy, though they do put little super on screen to give you his
Hmm.
designation. But in terms of good or bad, they create this
Yeah.
emotion. They're like, we introduce Tyagi and then this person is killed. So in your head, you have to think they're a bad
Yeah.
guy. Right? So this is what they do. They don't map it out
Hmm.
for you. They tell you what to feel and they manipulate you based on how you're
Hmm.
feeling.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think when you have such an information heavy
Story.
um,
Huh.
film story, yeah, it's a function of medium, right? Like if I were doing this in a series and you have more time to explore this, I would probably use visual aids to keep the character engaged. So it almost feels like they're solving a puzzle. They are detectives
Hmm.
themselves. But here they didn't want to put you in the shoes of the detective. They wanted to put you in the shoes of Vidya's
Yeah.
character as a feeling
Yeah.
woman. So this is why they've created emotion to carry the plot forward vis-a-vis information to
Yeah.
carry the plot
And
forward.
what you're quite right, because a lot of the information also does come very conveniently. Like it's not a who done it and how done it in that way, because they have quite conveniently used the character of an informant, you know.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
on a series you would sort of go on, follow the informant and how he found it out. But but you're right, it's a film like they want us to clock Vidya's journey rather than like the the mechanisms of this world. so
World,
so
yeah.
that's because a lot of the information comes out quite conveniently.
And the final point I had was about the tone of the film. Um, which is what you touched on very briefly earlier, where you said there are always kids, in the Durga Puja sequence. Throughout this film, they've used a lot of kids, right? From the opening sequence where the kid with the backpack is there, to the running hot water kid, to the guy at the tea stall who is also a kid.
Polto.
Polto, yes. And I agree that it's to drive home her motherhood and all of that, like to remind her of the fact that she was going to be a mother. But also, what this is at its core, a family story, right? This is the story of a woman losing her husband, and the world of the thriller and the dirty dark system can be so all-consuming that you can forget that this is a family story. So they have very intentionally, I believe, brought kids into the film to give it that form of levity, to be able to remind you that this is not about exploring the deep, dark workings of the system, but it is about remembering what it's like to have family. So this is what I believe a role the kids were playing in this film.
No, bang on. That's a very astute observation, I think, and that totally makes sense.
So this is the end of all my notes on Kahaani. Do you have anything more?
No notes. No more notes.
No more notes. So we have given everyone all our notes, mostly good
Yeah.
notes. Areas of improvement, which only we can see because weren't part of the writers' room. If we were part of the writers' room, we would have signed off to everything that was done in the making of this film. So another phenomenal film from Bollywood. Okay, everyone. Thank you for watching another episode of Breakdown Besties. I hope you're following along, watching the film and making the most of it and writing down your own observations when you're with us. And if you agree, disagree, like, dislike, you know the drill. Leave it all down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and join us for the next episode.
Hi again, bestie. For our next week, we have another Vidya Balan film, but in a completely different genre. This is horror comedy. The film we're going to be breaking down is Bhul Bhulaiya. Yeah. So see you next Thursday.